While today's armor does not fully cover the whole body, like many medieval plate armors, they both have their practical purposes. For example, stopping bullets instead of stopping sword slashes. Today we are going to explore those purposes and look at how medieval armor played a vital role in the development of war. The history of chainmail-like armor starts earlier than you might think, a whole 2,000 years earlier than the traditional chainmail armor we looked at earlier in the unit, in Eastern Europe around 500 BCE. As you can see, this full-body chainmail armor is called hauberk, and it is typically a type of chainmail armor constructed of loops of metal woven into a tunic or shirt. The sleeves sometimes only went to the elbow, but often were full arm length, with some covering the hands with a supple glove leather face on the palm of the hand, or even full chainmail gloves. It was usually thigh or knee length, with a split in the front and back to the crotch, so the wearer could ride. In this image, there are several types of armor in Europe, but the most common type was the chainmail that knights wore underneath their clothing. This type of armor was cheaper than plate armor up until the 14th century, and was widely used as it provided excellent protection against the way swords were used, but lacked the proper protection against blunt force weapons such as maces, as it did not protect the wearer from bruising or broken bones. The transition from chainmail to plate mail was mainly because the use of crossbows and better weapons that effectively penetrated the user's armor. During the early stages of the development around 1350 CE, the conventional plate armor was often complemented by some type of chainmail armor that covered the limbs such as knees or armpits such as to allow better flexibility, but around 1400 CE that mostly changed, and allowed for better and cheaper armor. So here we have a full plate body armor that was likely around from the 15th to 16th century, which is later on the medieval period. During this period, the armor was getting less effective, especially against crossbows and polearms. The typically full plate armor weight ranged from 25 kilograms to 35 kilograms, or in normal people terms, 55 to 75 pounds. During the later stages of the medieval period, armor was not only worn for combat, but was important for ceremonial purposes, and by the 17th and 18th century, it was rendered almost useless due to the inventions of muskets that could penetrate the wearer. This type of armor is called the Maximilian armor, and it was the pinnacle of medieval armor. It was often used in ceremonies and worn by nobles. There were different versions used for tournaments, as it was heavier and provided less mobility.
Most World War I soldiers were provided with little to no armor. At the start of the war, British military uniform for the time was made of hard-wearing brown khaki, which did at least provide a measure of camouflage in the fields of France and Belgium, but was not designed to provide any protection to the body of the wearer. This is the vest that they wore. It mainly provided camouflage around the trenches. Later on in the war, they managed to put some metal plating, though at the start they were in a disadvantage due to the stronger German-made plated vests. The most iconic parts of World War I armor was the helmet. In 1915, both the British and French started using steel helmets, in their bid to protect the most vulnerable parts of their bodies in trench warfare. This protected them from shrapnel and debris from explosions. This is the helmet the French and British wore during the Great War, though it had its criticisms from high-ranking members of the British military. For example, being too shallow, reflective, and its rim was too sharp and the lining too slippery. Later on in the war, the British military started using hard armor and intermediate armor. The hard armor provided much more protection and consisted of it being made almost entirely out of plates, though it was heavier and provided less mobility. The intermediate armor provided less plates but better mobility. My favorite body armor is called the Brewster body armor, and it was made by an American named Dr. Guy Brewster. Now at first glance, it may look like a child's costume. However, you are deceived by the great Dr. Brewster, and yes, it was very impractical. You cannot turn your head in this bodysuit, and this is our favorite part. When the US military gave Dr. Brewster the chance to test it, he put the suit on, and instead of shooting a couple of bullets, the US soldiers rained bullets on him. Surprisingly, Dr. Brewster was not killed, though it would have been hilarious otherwise. Modern-day combat consists of fighting with powerful rifles and armor-penetrating bullets. Today, we are going to be looking at one of the most powerful militaries and arguably one of the most expensive, The U.S. military. Standard body armor used for the U.S. military is called interceptor body armor and consists of an outer tactical vest made from layered Kevlar, which provides protection against shell fragments and most handgun bullets as large as 9mm. You can also add an additional plating on the sides. Altogether, the full system weighs as much as 16 pounds, but can provide protection against modern rifles. The most important thing is to protect your noggin, aka your head. The U.S. military uses the Mk7 helmet, which was invented by the British and weighs as a whopping 2 pounds. It protects the wearer against fragmentation and rifle rounds. It is made out of Kevlar and steel.
The ever-evolving body armor keeps on getting better and better. However, there still lacks a 100% chance of stopping high-velocity and armor-penetrating bullets, or the hassle of carrying 30 pounds of armor on top of all the other equipment. One of these prospects of future body armor include armor that is 2 atoms thick and liquid body armor. A component of liquid body armor is the liquid called polyethylene glycol. It is non-toxic and can withstand a wide range of temperatures. The way the armor works, it is meant to soak the standard Kevlar armor. It is a very flowable liquid. However, when bullets are fired into the armor, it transforms into a rigid material, preventing bullets from penetrating. The engineers are still testing it, and the technology has shown promising results. Hopefully, this ingenious idea can save lives one day. The key issue with modern armor is that it is very heavy, not to mention there is more additional weight, such as guns, ammunition, and the big heavy backpacks soldiers carry around. The solution to this issue could be a lighter type of armor made of graphite, that is 2 atoms thick. Under pressure, the graphite has a hard density and is a stiffer material, though researchers are still working on it.